So the long-awaited ingress of Pluto into Aquarius is with us. And I've done a longer video to look at the whole question of Pluto and Aquarius, what it might mean, what the next 20 years of humanity's development may well show in the history books eventually. And so tomorrow I'll issue that particular video. But today I just wanted to go over the first degree of Aquarius in the normal way. Pluto in the first degree of Aquarius, an old Adobe mission. Lasting values. Major works require group endeavour. Thus we know that they are emblematic of their times. Thousands of years ago, Stone Age man created features that were very difficult to make, Stonehenge, for example, that were clearly used for worship and ceremony, and they show that that aspect of life was very important indeed to them. Adobe missions similarly took great effort to place in the wild territory of California's early period, and collectively they took on the dual function of survival and worship. We might ask of ourselves, does our own set of values motivate us powerfully enough to create something sufficiently lasting that it outlives us? Each of us is the center of our own lives. We've got a reason to be here, to live the life that we have, to be with the people that we are with, and to do the jobs that we're asked to do. These are not casual or without meaning, though some people treat them that way. For those of us who actually want there to be meaning in our lives, and that meaning to go beyond the everyday and ordinary to the greater sense of the soul's imperatives here whilst it's incarnating. For those of us that want there to be meaning in our lives, we notice that we have two aspects to take care of. And we're mentioning the Adobe mission as an example of a fortress against the dangers of that time, which were very significant indeed on the one hand, and a temple on the other. Now we can see a temple in the same light as a fortress. In this case, it is a fortress that protects us against despair and despondency and confusion. If you actually build for yourself a living representative of your faith and your belief, living in the sense of where you live, what your life means, who you're with, the whole living that you have in everyday terms, that needs to be your temple. You need to build your life such that it is resistant to the darker forces that would rob you of motivation and security and so on. And that's the first degree of Aquarius. And Pluto is there. Pluto threatens death if you don't get the message of its life. And thus it's a very important thing for us to consider. We have a whole chapter of humanity's history just beginning now. Pluto going into Aquarius, this will change everything. As much as the last couple of decades or so have reworked our sense of what it's like to be alive, computers and social networking and the changing politics of the age and so on. We're in a different way of being now to what we were 20, 30 years ago. And it's going to shift again, of course. Pluto's going into Aquarius. It's going to be a major shift. And we can get some sense of where that shift will take us by looking at this first degree. Each of the first degrees of any zodiac sign can offer a clue as to the unfolding of those 30 degrees. And here we have a clue, very much like the early settlers took themselves to California, knowing that it was going to be dangerous. They had natives against them, they had the risk of starvation, they had the risk of all manner of people wanting the security and stability that they had built for themselves in the Adobe. And also the risk of being depressed and despondent and despairing must have been very strong indeed. We don't see much of this recorded, but it is likely that any number of people were unable to cope, and they were taken back to some psychiatric hospital. And this apparently did happen. So guarding against despair and despondency in your life, in the end, matters as much as your physical well-being in the end, because you can't lose your mind without you losing your future, really, your well-being. We have to construct for ourselves out of a strong, clear mind, a fearless mind, that which we will then come to embody and live out. So as we move into Aquarius now, symbolically, shall we say, a dangerous new territory where the dangers are unknown but many. As we move into that realm of our life, that's the chapter that we're just moving into now. Asking ourselves, are we safe, is a very good question to put. Are we safe in our faith? Are we safe in our physical well-being? Do we have a legitimate way of being anchored, tethered to the earth, where we're needed, where we are, where we can serve, where we can access the network of support in our community? Are we tethered to the land where we are making our place? Because if we're not, if we're still drifting around during this time, maybe that needs thinking about. This is not a good time to be on the road. Not if every pressure imaginable is going to come. And I think that's what we must expect. The world is clearly on the brink of some change, and for some people that will be catastrophic. Some of us will find a way through, and it's for us to make our choice about which of those two groups we would like to be in, the catastrophic ones or the ones that are actually working it out. And it's not too early to make your choices now. It's getting late. We do need to sort ourselves out. Now, what is your Adobe mission symbolically? What protects you on those two levels from the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, where you're guarding yourself against what might go wrong in terms of your source of supply of food and things that you need and so on? Are you taking that seriously? And on the higher level, are you also taking seriously the need for you to rigorously decide what you believe in? Rigorously. In other words, if there are challenges, you can stand up. This is what I have my faith in. And it really doesn't seem to matter very much what you put your faith in, as long as the faith is strong itself. I find it useful to put my faith in the word of Sufism, and that seems to check out for me. For you, it might be something else. It doesn't really matter. I think what really matters is that you have faith, and that faith is in a higher power. And that higher power may well be your soul self, or higher powers still. It could be God, it could be whatever it is, but you do need to know that you can access something higher than yourself. The individual is going to be a very puny little thing trying to survive the next years. So we need to group up with people that share the same general beliefs as us and have the same willingness to stand and deal with whatever comes up, however difficult that is, and whether that brings conflict with it. That's the kind of times that we're in, because Pluto's there. Pluto is a big deal. It sends shivers down us when we're not in alignment with Pluto. Now I'm going to read Rudyard's text on this question. An old Adobe mission in California. Keynote: the power inherent in all great human works to endure far beyond the worker's lifespans. The works and spirit of the Spanish priests who directed the building of the California missions have had a lasting influence on the development of this land. These remain as a monument to the men who were able to make their mark upon this alien environment. Aquarius at its start presents a more spiritualized and idealistic or creative picture of the social forces at work. Moreover, it stresses the enduring character of human achievements ensouled by a great vision. At least within the frame of reference of our Western civilization, the symbol speaks of the projection of a noble ideal into concrete forms of beauty and significance, thus of the radiation of a civilizing power into an institution offering to primitive men the opportunity to reach a higher, more organized and productive level of activity. So the noble ideal, the vision, the thing that moves us on to greater effort to get the job done for the basis of our community, to identify the needs of the community for the individual to work and overcome on behalf of the community, because we know that the community is there for us. We need it. We can't function alone. We can't survive alone. So an important part that Rudyard has underlined here is that there was a community involvement in the creation of these missions. Now that applies equally much on the level of protecting the psyche in our emotional neediness during these troubled times. So we have to get together with groups of people that can give us emotional support and wisdom and advice and so on, so that we can actually deal with issues that come up with a degree more wisdom and sensibility and information and so on, so that we can actually face the future with others. So building a future that we can share with our community is paramount here. And when Pluto is in there, it's the kind of inherent threat. If you do this, you'll be okay. If you don't, you won't be.